Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Ketubot page 12, which continues to discuss the difference between a woman who is a basula and an almana. A basula, namely a woman who was never married and also is a virgin. So when she receives the ketubah under the chuppah, she will receive the maximum amount of money, which is 200 zuz on her ketubah. However, a woman who was previously married or has had relations with other men, so because of that, she only receives 100, which of course, on the very simple level, we find that the Talmud and according to Jewish belief, there is more value in having a wife who was never with another man previously, to the extent that we find clearly that the ksuba is more for her, because it defines that she has more worth, the fact that she was never with another man. Now here, it also discusses the value, so to speak, of a woman who brings to the table the fact that not only is she a betula, but also she is the daughter of a Kohen. And it was established that in certain circles, they would actually give her 400 zuz. And for a woman who was the daughter of a Kohen, who was once married, or was a widow, let's say, that she would, at one point, they figured, let her only get 100. Now, it's very interesting. They said, well, the difference between 400 and 100 is quite significant. And the problem they realized is that people will look at this woman who was previously married and say, I only have to give her 100 zuz for her ksuba, and for a woman who was never married before, who's the daughter of a Kohen, 400. So what it ended up doing, even though it may not have been the initial intention, was it was mezalzel bahu. It caused some element of them looking not significant, and they were almost disgraced by the fact that there was such a discrepancy in the ksuba between 400 and 100. And therefore they said, you know what, we're going to keep the 400, but let's up the daughter of the Kohen, we'll give her 200 zuz. And then they said, there's another problem, because people are going to say, great, she comes from a very special family. She's the daughter of a Kohen, but she was also previously married. She was a widow or she was divorced. So I'm going to give her the same 200 zuz, the $200, as I would give a daughter of Yisrael who was never previously married, who was a betula. And therefore people stopped marrying those women. And eventually they decided to once again institute that she would only get 100. But we see the tremendous sensitivity how they instituted different things. At first, they wanted to be able to, again, show how special a basula is, who is the daughter of a Kohen, give her 400. And like any other widow, gave her 100. But then they realized that it was, again, hurtful and painful for this woman who was previously married. Okay, she was previously married, but between $400 and $100 is a huge, huge gap. And then they decided, okay, what, we have to be sensitive to who they are. And they gave 200. But then they realized, okay, it's good to be sensitive and give them more, but the reality is that people may not necessarily marry them. And therefore, for that reason, they went back to the original decree, which we can find the tremendous sensitivity and balancing act that the sages had to go to be able to figure out what is an adequate and proper amount for a ketubah, which will, on one hand, not cause women to feel disgraced or cheapened, but at the same time, that they should be considered for marriage.